Hello, everybody. Welcome to our Gap Year Experience panel. If you are, just please drop a hello in the chat. Say hello. We're a friendly bunch. If you haven't met me yet, my name is Jazz, and I am the community manager here at CanGap. And I get to hang out with these three amazing individuals all the time, and they light up my life because I love hearing what they're up to on their gap years. So I was so excited to invite them in to share with you today because I think that all of their unique stories will totally inspire you, whether you are considering a gap year, you're committed to a gap year, you're a mom or a dad of a potential gapper, you want to hear from Rina, Hardeep, and Claire. So what I'll do is I'm going to just, let's do like a quick round of intros. So why doesn't everyone just introduce themselves, where they're calling in from, because we're a very universal group today, and also why you chose to take a gap year. So Rina, you are first on my screen. So why don't you kick it off?
Okay, well, hello. My name is Rina. I am tuning in from Japan at the moment. It's 6:30 in the morning, and I woke up 20 minutes ago. So if I sound croaky, I probably am. And why I took a gap year. Why I took a gap year is a little complicated, but it's basically because I didn't think I'd be able to go to a Canadian university from Japan because of the pandemic. And so I'd been kind of like planning my year that way. And so when I suddenly found out that I could actually go to Canada, like fly to Canada if I wanted to, I was like, you know what? Like, there are more things that I want to do still in Japan that I wouldn't get the chance to do if I went to university this year. So that's what I'm doing this year.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Do you want to hand it off to who's next?
Ooh, okay. So I see Claire on my screen next.
Awesome. Hey, my name is Claire. I am currently ill. I guess it's currently like 10:34 at night, and if I feel like I'm falling asleep a bit, it's definitely because I am. It's I know it's not that late, but I feel like it is. And I am currently in the UK right now. I'm living in a relatively small town called Warrington. And yeah, I guess my reason, there were a lot of reasons for me taking a gap year, but I guess like at the center of it all was like my desire to learn more about myself and kind of explore more of my identity outside of education, and yeah, just gain experience in life. So yeah, I guess Hardeep, you're next.
Yeah, thanks for the tag. So, my name is Hardeep, and I'm currently on my gap year, and I'm in Brampton, Ontario. So, like, unlike Rina and Claire, these people got happening lives there in Tokyo. You come in the same place as I was a year ago. So don't worry, you don't need to travel so much in your gap year if you don't have to. And why I took a gap year is primarily because I honestly didn't know what I wanted to do. Like, it was August of last year, and I was going into York as an undeclared major, and one, I didn't like the University of York. Like, no disrespect to them, and second, I didn't think that an undeclared major would get me very far. So, like the last week of August, I dropped out my accepted offer, and yeah, I was like, screw it, I'm just gonna figure this out. Took a gap year, and yeah, well, here I am.
Amazing. And so after you decided to take a gap year, how did y'all start planning? What was that first step to getting started with your year? Let's go in reverse order. How deep you are first.
Okay, so for me it was pretty straightforward because I ended up deciding like September-ish, like after the summer, I figured out I wanted to go into like business or something like management. Like that was a little bit of part I got figured out. And so I was like, you know what, I'm just going to take these math courses that I didn't take before. so I can just like keep my doors open now, because like these university programs require me to take these math prerequisites. So I knew like most of my time was going to be consumed for that, like 3 courses: functions, advanced functions, and calculus. So I know that was like one part of my plan straight from like right from the starting. And then I knew that scholarship and university applications take a bunch of time. So, these were the things that majorly took my time. And on top of that, I was participating, I was leading this nonprofit organization. So these were the things that I already like knew, like, my time was already filled every day. So it's like, this is how I'm going to roll with it. And yeah, it's been like that since September now, and it's almost April.
Beautiful.
I'll tag Claire.
All right, so I guess like my gap year was a lot more like full of unknowns, because like a major part of it was like moving to the UK from Canada. And so I'd say that my major like planning components were financial and kind of like figuring out all the aspects of how I was going to be able to work in the UK and afford my gap year. So yeah, I guess like I prepared for it by doing a ton of research into the tier 5 youth visa for working and living in the UK. And then I also did a lot of like financial planning, like talking with my parents about how it was like going to work. And yeah, just like talking as well with like Michelle about it too, for like my goals and things. So I guess like that's how I planned the major things. And then since then I've kind of been like it's just kind of been happening, and I've been going along with it, and continuously planning along the way, and then like also keeping an open mind when things don't go to plan. So yeah.
Mm.
I would say my gap year has been more similar to Claire's, but I didn't even really have like a travel aspect, or like there was literally nothing that was solid in my gap year. Like, like I had no real like noble reason why I was taking my gap year either. So, I mean, the first step I had to take was to ask to defer my offer from university so that I can use the same offer to get into university this September, which I did. And then I looked up Gap Year Canada, and CanGap was the first thing that clicked. So it was funny because that was like finding the Gap Year Flash Week was like kind of ultimately like what tipped me to like take the gap year, because I realized that like I can still build community during my gap year. And then I just had like lists and lists of like brainstorming like what I wanted to do this year. And so I've been slowly like taking things off of that list, as well as like finding out that I like doing other things along the way, and then like adding them into my schedule. So yeah, it's been kind of like doing things as they evolve. Yeah.
So I'm hearing there's a mix of like, so Hardeep had more of a kind of understanding of what the year would look like based on kind of responsibilities and things that you're passionate about and moving forward. Claire, you had to do a lot of prep around getting ready for international travel and then figuring things out while you're in a different country. And then Rina, deciding a little bit later, going more with the flow and planning like a chunk at a time. And I just want to let everyone know that all of these are acceptable. Things shift and change constantly, especially in a pandemic. And I think it's so important. And I think all of you have really thrived through all of that, because I've gotten to connect with all of you individually multiple times, and to see how you have pieced together this year, even when there was ups and downs, has been so beautiful. And I think what, things that we don't, there hasn't been as much space for in the gap year conversation is talking about those lower times, like those challenges that you do experience. So I'm curious, like, what are some of the bigger challenges you have faced in your gap year, and how did you overcome them? Feel free to use like one example, or maybe there's like a string of things that you kind of overcame at some point. But what did that look like for you? Anyone, feel free to do like popcorn style. Whoever wants to share first, just go for it.
I can go.
Um,
Oh,
yeah,
you
go
can
ahead.
go.
Yeah.
Okay,
Go
I'll
for it,
just
Rina.
go. Well, okay, like during the summer time last year, things like COVID cases in Japan were getting pretty high, and um, the country declared like a state of emergency where you're like only allowed to. They encourage you to only go out when you have to, right? And that was kind of like a difficult period to be on a gap year because like one thing you realize is like once you're out of school, like you literally have no obligations to go anywhere. So when they say, like only go out when you have to, like at the very base of it, there's nowhere that I have to go. So like it was kind of difficult because I like going out. Like if I take going out and meeting new people out of my gap year, then like I don't see anybody ever. So I had to learn to um try and build community and continue my friendships online. This is like basically like pandemic stuff, but like doing stuff online, like trying to find ways to continue my hobbies at home. And I also was kind of a little bit sneaky. So I signed myself up for like things that would be considered obligations. So like I signed up for like to be in a dance performance. So I had to go to rehearsals, obviously, right? And like I would work. So like I wouldn't go as often as I used to, but I would still have to go to keep my job. So those are some ways that I, tied myself over during those COVID days.
So finding ways to kind of implement structure so that you're holding
Yeah.
yourself accountable.
Yeah.
Beautiful. I like it. Hardeep, you unmuted second.
Yeah, yeah. Personally, I face a lot of challenges, and there's like a whole list I have, and like there's like some solutions I have came like like what I did wrong, like the learnings I got from them. And yeah, I'll just go like one by one. I'll try to keep it pretty short. One is like the social aspect. Like CanGap has like a community, but like in general, like it does get isolating sometimes. So like one thing, like I personally was doing the math courses most of the time, and they were asynchronous. So like there wasn't like an actual class or something. Like I was just watching videos. So I think that's something I found challenging. Like there's some. I'm someone who gets like really motivated by competition. Like in classes, I'm like, you're getting 95, I gotta crush you. Like, just come at me. And yeah, personally, like when that sense of competition or just like sense of having that company kind of there, I think that really impacted me. But yeah, eventually I've just like learned that when you're taking a gap year, like you do need like some kind of regular commitment. Like like Rina said, she had to go to this dance performance, like regularly. I think that's something that's really necessary. Like it doesn't have to be a job or dancing. Like it could be anything, but it just has to be regular. Like there has to be some kind of social interaction that your gap year could be like everything could go like haywire, but that's one thing that you got like that's still stable. So I think that's something very important. And another something, some challenge I have faced is that Michelle's going to be smiling while I'm saying this, but I spent a lot of time on my applications. Like I had these university applications, and like I had this dead set in my mind. Like I was applying to Ivy School of Business at Western, and it has like an 8% acceptance rate. So I was like scared as heck. I'm like, what if I screw this up? So I was really scared. And because of that, I think I spent an atrocious amount of time perfecting that application that I shouldn't have. Like one thing I have learned is that the more time you give tasks, the more they expand. And it's very necessary to take breaks, not just because tasks won't expand, but when you take breaks, you come back with a new perspective and you have fresh ideas, you have a new set of eyes. So that's very important. And Yeah, that's two main of my goals. And yeah, like two main challenges I face and the learnings from them have commitments, some kind of regular commitments, and second, the more time you give tasks, the more they expand. So always like have deadlines or some kind of regulation.
Beautiful. Thank you for sharing, and also very self-aware of you. Very like it's a challenge, and I think you've summed it up with solutions that are very succinct and sustainable. Claire, what
Um,
about you?
yeah, so I think like I definitely have come across a lot of challenges this year. I think one of the main ones was like having unscheduled time. Like I had this 2 month, 2.5 month period where I didn't really have anything like going on. And I think kind of both Rina and Hardeep discussed this before, but like not having anything is so like difficult because you don't have any obligations, like you said, Rina. It's just like, I kind of worked myself into such a slump because I didn't have anything planned. And so yeah, just like I guess I figured out how to get out of that by like planning stuff for myself, getting another job, and also like learning how to hold myself accountable for things that I wanted to get done. Because like I have like I do have like now like lots of things that I want to do during my gap year, and like I actually had to like set those out and structure my time around those things, in order to make that like a productive time. And yeah, I guess I would say like yeah, both the two main challenges were that time where it's like kind of unstructured, and also like connecting with like people. Yeah, I guess those are the two things. But yeah, I've been having some success online, like connecting with people right now, through Gap Connect, which is great. And also, yeah, I guess that's it.
Awesome. I'm hearing a trend there. So it's really about like that community building piece and then finding structure. And, not everyone is going to tell you this, but yes, of course, as a gap year student, like you are in charge of your own schedule. That could be scary, but it's also very empowering because for the first time in your life, you finally have time that you can choose what you want to do and how you want to make the most of it. And I mean, obviously, I chose all three of these amazing individuals to be in this panel because they're all game planners, which is our most structured program for supporting gap year students in having that foundation throughout their year. And then, of course, access to gap year experts to support you with those kind of lower moments and how do you troubleshoot and problem solve and learn from these experiences, because this is one of the biggest opportunities for growth a gap year. Like I took two. So trust me, like I know what I'm saying. And it led me to the other side of the world and I haven't left. So, but thinking about, I know we focused on the low lights, but now I want to focus on the highlights because obviously all three of you have done incredible things on your gap year. So I can't even believe it. We're already running out of time. Like I could literally talk to the three of you for like 6 hours about this. But if you could share one kind of major highlight that is just kind of really, and I know you're not done your gap year yet, but what has been that moment so far where you're just like, yes, this was definitely the right decision and I am awesome. Like, what was that moment for you?
I first, like I said, like most of my gap year was just like completing those math courses. And I did really well on those math courses, which got me into like my top program. So I think getting those acceptances and some scholarship, that was like a big peak for me. So that's something great. And I'm still on my gap year. And like next year, I'm actually going to India. So I think like the fun part of my gap year, like more things that's starting like moving on. So yeah, I'll probably have more to speak about that after.
Yes, and I can't wait to see you in India.
Yeah.
Who wants to go next?
I can go. I guess like that like moment where I was like, oh my god, I made the right decision was when I was like doing my work away in France. Like it was just such like it was something that like I saw myself doing like in the future when I thought of a gap year, and then I was doing it and I was like, wow, this is everything I wanted, Like it was such like kind of like a leap of faith, to do something that different for myself. And yeah, I guess it's just like it kind of like embodied the whole year for me. And I'm excited to do more workaways, but just like being able to be in another country and like meet this person who is like living their life in that country and like help them out with their day-to-day tasks and stuff. And that was just like, yeah, something that I felt just really made the year for me so far.
Well, for me, I was gonna say like last month I traveled solo for the first time and I had like the best experience, but I don't want this to come across as like, you have to travel to have a highlight in your gap year. So I'm gonna say actually, I was in a dance performance at the beginning of September, so like the very, very beginning of my gap year. And when I was like dancing and like looking at the audience from this stage, I was like, oh my goodness, like this is something that I wouldn't have had the chance to see and to experience if I had gone to university, because I would have been that would have been like my first day at school, and instead I was like doing like that performance was something that I really wanted to do, and so I was like, oh my goodness, like I actually did it. I'm like experiencing this right now. Like this is amazing, and so that really inspired me to like it really made me happy that moment. So I'm gonna go with that actually.
That's beautiful. Thank you for sharing. You haven't told me that. That just made me so smiley. I love it. Beautiful. And I guess thinking about this journey that you've been on, again, you're not done yet, and I don't want it to, I don't want to rush it either. Like, we're already 8 months into your gap years already, which is crazy. What have been kind of the biggest support pieces for you? Like, has it been like tangible, like worksheets? What kind of resources have been the best for you? What has been supportive that you would recommend to others to kind of get a hold of?
Well, I'll just speak one word. I'll say Michelle. That I think that should sum it up very well. like, like there's been so many times the other people who are in the game plan, like Rina, Hargun. When I started having these consultation calls with Michelle, like I was bullying them all the time. Like, you need to go talk to Michelle, just because like she helps with planning and stuff a lot, and like it actually helps. You might have some ideas flowing by, and she'll just like point something out, and she's like, "Don't you mean this by this?" I'm like, I did not see it from that perspective, and I think like just having that adult kind of like guiding you, has like a lot of experience in this field. I think that really helps a lot. And yeah, I have called with Michelle all the time, and we went on a walk last month, and yeah, it's just been an amazing experience. And yeah, she's always helping me out, so that's like my biggest resource right there.
I think we just made Michelle cry, but she's not going to tell you that. But that's beautiful. Yeah, having a support, having a coach, having that expert who can guide you when, especially if your parents are not used to the gap year path and don't really know how to step in and play that role, having someone who's been doing this for years is very, very helpful. Like, I wish I had a Michelle 12 years ago. Like, no joke. I'm glad I have her now. What about you, Rina?
I was gonna say basically the same thing. So like I do think that like the kind of resources and things like that fit your personality depend on the person. But for me, I'm someone who needs to be able to like bounce off ideas with someone and like kind of like get to know my why, and from there I can kind of like I'm good at like going with the flow once I know like basically what I want to do. And so for me, the kind of resources that I found helpful are like things like journaling and brain dumping my ideas to like kind of see it like through my eyes, and having people like you, Jazz, to talk things through.
Don't make me cry now. And I love those sessions. And because it's sometimes also just talking through things like is so helpful. If you're if you're not a big journaler, just having someone, even if it's a peer as well, like I think that's why our community is also so incredible in our Gapper Connect, because everyone can just share their experience, and there's definitely somebody else in the room that is probably experiencing the exact same thing and that can relate to you with on it. So beautiful.
Oh
Thank you for
yeah,
sharing, and thank you.
definitely.
Yeah, Claire, please go on.
Yeah, I kind of Rina and Hardeep, you guys just kind of said what I was gonna say. Like, I feel like definitely I'm kind of like you, Rina, where I have to like bounce my ideas off someone in order for them to like make sense to me. And so definitely I feel like I've been meeting with Michelle recently, and that has been like really kind of it kind of made things click for me in terms of like my procrastination and like getting actually being able to get stuff done in my year. So I feel like, yeah, just like having someone to like talk to about like my life, who like understands not only where I am in my life, but like what like kind of path I'm on, and who has experience in it, has been like an extremely invaluable thing for me. And I guess the other thing that has been like really useful in terms of like CanGap's resources has just like been having been knowing where to go for other to look for other gappers. Like I think like as much as like it's important to bounce your ideas off like someone who knows what they're doing, it's also important to like like meet your peers and like meet other people who are in like a similar situation to yourself, and just like become friends with them. So yeah, both the resources from like the game plan in terms of the Discord community and Michelle have been absolutely amazing for me this year.
Yes, and I'm dropping those links in the chat because we're just at time. And if you want to connect with these three amazing human beings, you can actually connect with them and myself and Michelle and 150 other people in our Gapper Connect Discord. That there's always conversation going on. We have just introduced new opportunities like job ops and scholarship ops that you can access in there. So that's pretty cool. I also wanted to introduce, if you want to follow along Claire and Rina's journey, you actually can on our YouTube. They are CanGap ambassadors, and I am really Hardeep in next week to become a CanGap ambassador too, to share his amazing journey as well. So that's a really great place to kind of get more of a deep dive into the stories and experiences of gappers who are doing very, very diverse things. So I highly recommend heading over there for some Gap Year inspo. And then I've also linked our Gap Year game plan to learn more about our next cohort is actually onboarding on May 2nd. So if you are planning early and want that support now so that you can kick off your summer with without the stress of needing to plan and without the stress of like, oh my gosh, what is going to happen? I'm going to take these 2 months to do nothing, and then everything's going to be crazy in September. Don't do that. So this is an opportunity that you can sign up early to the game plan and get started in that. I guess there's still a few people in the room. So before we head off, I just want to, if everyone wants to leave like one or like a couple words of wisdom for everybody who's left in the room before Michelle starts our scholarship help application support session after this. What are like a few words of advice or inspo you want to leave with everyone?
I guess. Oh, sorry.
Oh no, go ahead.
Oh, I was gonna say like like people are going to doubt you when you're like taking this path because it's probably one that like a lot of people are unsure about and they don't know about it. But there's like I don't know. My advice for the people who doubt you is like to prove them wrong. You have this opportunity to like kind of sorry. Let me rephrase that. Like this year is kind of what you make of it, should you choose to take it. And so I think the biggest thing that you can do to prove to people that a gap year is actually a useful thing is to make the most out of your year. Sorry if that didn't make sense, but
Totally. Prove everyone wrong. Make this year awesome.
yeah,
You can do anything. Absolutely.
exactly.
Yeah, I agree with
Hardeep?
I agree with Claire. Like definitely like, gap year is what you make out of it. And I think that's exactly the same thing with the game plan too. Like Michelle's going to be there, Jazz is going to be there, but like if you do not approach them, but like they will check in on, but you need to like reach out for help at times because yeah, they'll help you, but you need to let them know and communicate. So I think that's one main thing. And second, I'll drop a tip is that procrastination is like a problem with I think everyone, and especially like all gappers kind of like come across it sometime or another. And one tip I heard from someone, or like one quote I heard from someone was that if you ever have a task you want to get it completed soon, give it to the busiest person possible because they will try to get it done quick. And I think that's something I've been trying to implement in my gap year, like trying to get myself busy, but busy with things I like. And that's how I'm trying to like get them done quick. So that's my tip.
Very cool. Thank you for that.
And I think this, if I, like this is going to sound like a trend in my gap year, but I think this is a piece of advice that I did get at the beginning of my gap year, which was like to go with the flow. Like, don't force things to happen if it feels like it's not meant to be. Like, meant to be is kind of like, but if it doesn't feel meant to be, like, don't force things to happen. Like, that's how I chose to defer my offer for university because it didn't feel like, because going to university, forcing that to happen felt like the harder choice at the time. And everything since then that's rolled out, I've done because it feels like the right thing to do at that moment in time. And to accept everything that comes your way, so like that's kind of my approach to my gap year. And if that helps anybody, then awesome. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank
Uh,
y'all. Yeah, go for it.
yeah, I'll just drop a last tip. Rina just kind of reminded me of this one thing. I think it's just that I think one thing I've learned is like you can't be afraid. You shouldn't be afraid to be too ambitious because I think that's one thing I've learned in gap year that have these crazy ideas like at the start of my gap year it's like I'm gonna start this blog or I'm gonna start this company that kind of supports like high school kids or something like that, and then implement that because like I mean I think in family is like, oh, that's gonna be too busy, or that self-doubt kind of comes in. So I think my whole point is like don't be too afraid to be too ambitious, but just dive in and things will work out.
100%. Absolutely. Thank y'all. You're also wise. I appreciate you sharing these words of wisdom. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in to watch. Again, follow along on all of their amazing journeys on our YouTube. Make sure you get into Gapper Connect and make sure you jump over to Michelle's session right now if you want $1,000 for your gap year, because that is an opportunity you do not want to miss. Rina, Hardeep, and Claire, thank you so much for joining me at weird hours, except for you, Hardeep. You're great. You're doing good. I hope, Claire, you go to bed. Rina, maybe go back to bed. I'm going to go to bed. Hardeep, you enjoy the rest of your afternoon. And thank you so much for spending 30 minutes with me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, of course. Thank all of you.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks, y'all. Thanks, everyone, for listening. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.